Say the third time is the charm. Let's hope so. This is Jim with Administrative Behavioral Consultants. This is an internal document and an effort for review from my supervising consultant, Dr. Joyce Springer, and with regard to a SWOT analysis for the Pleasant Valley School District. Again, this is an internal document and only the final SWOT analysis to be shared with our client, Pleasant Valley School District. So behaviorism has a lot of value. ABA is something that's used all the time, or was historically for a long time. But it's time that we start holding corporations, or in this case, a school board, a school district, responsible for its behavior. So we have the natural people who run the board, and then we have the board itself as an entity that still exists regardless of who's sitting in the chairs. We've got to find the tools to begin to hold agencies and corporations accountable, regardless of who's sitting in the driver's seat. So as we move into the 21st century, we've got the tools. And we can really look at data and how data is being used, whether that data is being presented in a numeric way or it's in a more warm and fuzzy kind of way. And all data is important, but when we're talking about accountability, the word counting is in there, we've got to have some either numeric or scalar way of judging behavior. So perhaps what's been good for the gosling is good otherwise. So there's 5 guiding questions: the composition of district, financial trends, priorities, what's currently going on, some recent changes, and then ultimately a SWOT analysis for the defining characteristics of the district. So what are the demographics? Here's the link from the county. The county also does a great deal of work with charter schools. However, as we know, charter schools are all in and here come in January, but they got 20 schools that VCOE is responsible for. And when we look at Pleasant Valley, it comes up to about 1/20th of the total load for the county, so it's a pretty evenly distributed burden. This is the geography of where VCOE sits, and this is Pleasant Valley right there, that little sliver. This is from the LCAP. It gives us an idea here that certainly the quote white population in Camarillo is no longer the majority, but it's the largest minority. The Latino Hispanic population is growing. We've got about 6,400 students, but we saw earlier from the state's numbers that we were at about 7,000. And we've got low income here at about 31%, and about $38 million spent on salaries. Carol Bjordahl made sure to mention to us that we have 6,543 students. So again, some wishy-washy areas in terms of what the numbers really are. She stated that around 1,200 kids require some form of medical care, and that there are 22 kids with a diabetes monitoring device, 5 kids that are classically independent as it relates to diabetes. We'll find out later why these statistics were presented. At the CDE, we confirm here that 31% really does come from free and reduced lunch, and it became a topic in my research because I had contacted Dr. Ramsey, another Dr. Ramsey, because there's Angela Ramsey, who's our superintendent, and then there is her husband, Darrington Ramsey, who is responsible for Title I funding for the county. And when I asked him why there was nothing in Camarillo, he said, well, there's a relationship between Title I funding and free and reduced lunch. So this is probably a pack of some kind. But FRAC was able to educate me a little bit, and I discovered that there was this 40% number that you got to get to in order to get funding in those areas, and that the Title I 40% often comes from the free and reduced lunch numbers. So that's where they get their math. There's other ways of doing the math, but they use the free and reduced lunch numbers as a way of determining Title I funding eligibility. This gets us into financial trends for sure. So the LCFF snapshot, here are the years. 2013 is the beginning of the new funding formula. So we're seeing the full rollout and where we really are. These funding snapshots are great. But really, the 3 pieces of data we pull out here in just a moment, just look at this pie chart here, and you begin to see that Pac-Man's mouth is closed because we are capped. $52 million is what we currently are receiving. $39 million is what we did receive. That is an increase in almost 34%. And the state's numbers are showing our ADA going down from almost 6,400 down to just under 6,200. Bob Rust is very clear to say, again, pensions are their problem and that they need more money. There might be more money, but it's not coming here. What he means is it's not getting to the kids. It's serving a lot of other things rather than our kids. $8,538 is what we got per child. That comes out to $47.43 a day. Now, the LCAP report was not available at the county website. Again, the links weren't functional. PVSD, however, did have its LCAP up and running. There are 8 state-based priorities, other outcomes being one of them. So this is an example of something the district does well in terms of literature. This is the summary page. In terms of communication, comprehensible content to the public, none of these links work. The strategic plan, the California dashboard, and the draft. Also, this draft is not available at the county site. These links don't work either here within the PDF or at the district page itself. Certainly the dashboard and strategic plan can be accessed elsewhere. We're still in the LCAP right now. Oh, the thing about the LCAP to consider too is that we don't get any of this funding for concentrated funding. That means you get another $25 a kid if you've got 55% or more students that are homeless youth, foster youth, English learners, etc. We don't qualify for any of that. But the other 2 types of LCFF funding we do. Again, there's only one kind of funding. From the LCAP, the first goal, ensure increased student achievement through high expectations for all. I have a concern immediately right away. I couldn't get past when it said it was a goal. And when I look inside, myself, historically, SMART goals look like this. Specific, measurable, assignable, sometimes attainable, realistic, and time-based. This is 1981 when technology was developed. This is not a SMART goal. These are 24 action items related to one goal, which means potentially nearly 100 action items. That is not simple. It is not in any way do I see anything here measurable. So it doesn't give anybody a dashboard or a heads up as about where we are, where we're going, what we're doing to get there. Action item number 1 in the first goal is that we're supposed to be 21st century learning supporters. So we're supposed to be able to do that. This is the link that's provided at the website following the district meeting, and it's only an audio file. The district is not able to provide any longer. They say they can't afford to do multimedia. They can't afford to do a cable TV broadcast. It really concerns me that a district that claims to teach technology and the arts can't broadcast a board meeting. That means we don't have the staff or the resources to be able to do such a thing. If we can't do such a thing, how can we teach such a thing? Action number 9, expand cultural proficiency and training to help eliminate discrimination. So apparently the district is owning this. When we see how the diabetes lawsuit is being handled, the open session is just talking about things that they've done, but there's no context for why it's going on. So apparently we've had some issues probably going on as far as discrimination. And it is our charge to expand our cultural proficiency and build capacity to support all these populations. My opinion, where we're going, I think this is a funding drive. We're currently at 31.6. I think we're going to try to get ourselves to 40% so that we can see ourselves some additional Title I funding. I don't know that we'll ever get here, but it looks like we're trying to get here. Recent changes, PVSD lost its contract to handle First 5. If they had retained the contract, they would have only gotten $300,000 versus the prior $900,000 they would have received, and they'd have had to let go of all the employees anyway. So Interface has taken it over. First 5 has gotten a revamp. It's no longer First 5, it's First 3, and it's no longer free. It's going to cost a fee. Again, I've mentioned it a little bit, but the primary conversation in the beginning with Carol Bjordahl mentioning the diabetes information is because a former team member informed me that during a field trip last year that I was on, a parent was very concerned about the way her diabetic child was cared for, and more concerned that the information she received from the district was not accurate and untrue. So Carol was presenting there to show that everything that's supposed to be happening is now happening, and my understanding is there's an active lawsuit. Other changes, the district picked up $135 million of Measure C bond funding ultimately, and we've hired somebody to manage all that too. So we've got some money to take care of some infrastructure improvements. They'll be spending about $1 million this summer on a number of schools and improving their parks. Ultimately, what are the defining characteristics of the district? Well, the beginning of the board meeting, it was very clear that faith is an issue within Camarillo, and there was a great deal of lamentation about the fact that they now have to choose between freedom or integrity as a singular core value. And they chose freedom, not integrity, as a district. And it seems to be reflected in the type of data that we see. This district was left to its own devices for a long time. The last few years, for a lot of districts, is a shake-up and a wake-up in terms of accountabilities for the new funding formulas. But left to their own devices, PVSD kind of did what it wanted, and now we're discovering that freedom isn't free. So as far as strengths and weaknesses, we've got a very seasoned, and yes, they are faithful administration. There's a brand new savvy superintendent. She's coming up on 2 years now. The district has a very positive public perception. They got a great logo. For whatever reason, citizens think PVSD is great. And in the community, you got a lot of faith-based leadership and support that's out there. Liabilities internally, again, faithful, but war-torn, war-worn staff. They're resentful, they're recalcitrant, and they're all just waiting to retire. There's the guise of transparency. I believe that Dr. Ramsey is very sincere in her desire for transparency. But again, a lot of qualitative data, not quantitative, and not data that's really presented in a scalar way to see where we are, to show progress in almost like a histogram kind of a format. We have a very highly litigious and affluent community in Camarillo. They got the money and they sue like crazy. And lack of comprehensible content is very evident. Not the state probably does it the best, but at the district level, what we're presenting to parents openly is a little bit lacking. Dr. Ramsey does a great job personally presenting emails each week to the team about what she's doing. However, recommendations. Get behind Dr. Ramsey. It's almost as if her wings got a little clipped in the beginning. She came in very hard and fast, and she's had to slow down and become a little bit more soft. But nonetheless, I think it's time to let her lead. And I think it's really important to create this persona of her as a top teacher, kind of like the top cop, and the city as a campus classroom. So I think it's really important to get her out there as the personification of the district, not her being the district, obviously. Second, leading by example. We've got to get ourselves ahead of this issue of digital literacy as a district, and we need to be publishing, or we're gonna perish otherwise. I think Dr. Ramsey's email weekly is great, but I think it needs to be bumped up to something in a multimedia context, and that features Dr. Ramsey as a presenter, and again, the personification or figurehead of the district. We need to move to SMART goals that are things and done in a visual way that makes it really easy to see where we are versus where we need to be and what we've been doing to get there. We need to move to SMART goals internally, and then we need to simply produce external versions of that. But I don't get the impression that we're using SMART goals. It looks like we're creating documents for year-end reviews and encapsulated pieces that are marketing savvy, but they really should just be good tools that are used internally first. And the last recommendation is we need a professional learning community. We need to find a way through these relationships and the community support that we do have to create an environment where the district is not catching all the heat from parents, and that we are working as a community to determine what we want children to know based on state standards and our community values, what we're going to do to get them to know it, what's the curriculum look like, and what are we going to do when kids don't learn things? What's our remediation plan as a district? And that we're all on the same page, and that this becomes, just like the SMART goals, a living document that we're all working with constantly, not a last-minute committee to be formed to help somebody line their charitable pockets. I did write Dr. Ramsey a letter, and I suggested to her that the multimedia problem they were having could potentially be solved by about 4 different resources. The most promising would be the Adult Education Centers in Ventura and the Technology Development Center, which films stuff like this all the time and has a full soundstage, and it is proximate enough to Camarillo for board members and anybody interested in attending a board meeting to go there. And then we'd have students in adult ed creating an environment for learning that maybe even the kids can participate in what it takes to do the AV work around a live broadcast. And that's the end of my presentation.